Hey everyone, I wanted to go over the new and exciting news that we got for Digimon Survive, which is set to release on the Nintendo Switch on July 29th. And today we're going to be checking out two separate things. First and foremost, we're going to be checking out some English gameplay for Digimon Survive, which is actually revealed in and first shown off at the Anime Expo 2022 just a few days ago. Now, the stream that they had was very short. I mean, relatively speaking to everything else that they were showing off. This was less than 5 minutes, and they basically showed off the most basic thing ever. They showed off a couple of conversation sequences from the characters. Probably this is like the opening 5 minutes of the game. And then they went into a combat transition, which was, extremely basic. They didn't necessarily show anything of the mechanics. There was no digivolving. There was just a one-on-one bout. It was very much a tutorial sequence kind of combat. So I didn't even necessarily want to originally cover this because it was just so basic. But it was the first time that we got to see the game in English. With that said, I will say that there probably were some translation errors in the text that I picked up on, or maybe they were just skipping through the text a little bit too fast, but it certainly doesn't look like end build. It certainly looks like a developer build that they're still working on. Now, this was running on a PlayStation 4, I want to say, because it certainly had the PlayStation button prompts, so that is something to take away. Visually, though, again, it's just a stream. The bitrate is a little bit limited in that regard, so it's not like we're really going to be focused on visuals for this specific case. Usually we focus on trailers when they have a little bit of a better presentation for the game. But we did get to see a little bit of like selecting options. They do mention that the morale system is going to be something that is going to be heavily focused. This is Habu Kazumasa, the producer for the game, specifically spoke about how the morality system is going to be key and pivotal to the progression of the story, and it's actually how the game is going to branch off, specifically whenever you're choosing to play. And based off of said decisions that you make in your playthrough, you're going to get a different ending. So it's something to consider if you're perhaps going to have the option to go evil, if you're going to have the option to be positive, good, bad, whatever. That seems to be something that they're heavily focusing on. But moving over to also the reveal for the launch day trailer. Now, this is something that they posted around the same time. This was just randomly posted on YouTube. I'm going to leave a link in the description below for that. And then that one, they did do a little bit of a better job introducing more of the characters that we haven't necessarily seen before. They once again doubled specifically in that trailer regarding the morale system, and it's something that you're going to building affinity with some of the characters in the game as well. So they're not saying you're going to have full-on social links like Persona or anything like that. That's not really what they're saying, but you are going to have some sort of friendship building aspects in the game that are going to be pivotal to seeing what kind of ending you're going to get, maybe even with one of the characters. They do specifically mention that turns, and specifically when it comes to combat, are going to be based off of the Digimon speed, and is not necessarily going to be based off of like stats. But they do mention that also stats play a big role. So that was kind of like a little bit of like a confusing thing that they said that didn't necessarily explain it all that well. When they came to actual combat, they did showcase a couple of new things, a couple of new Digimon we hadn't necessarily seen before. They do mention that you can actually befriend them during combat, so if you're fighting like enemy Digimon, you can probably become friends with them if you probably pummel them a little bit, kind of like a Pokemon mechanic. If you whittle their health down to a certain point and then you kind of negotiate with them, I'm thinking Shin Megami Tensei style. Probably that's going to be another route. You're going to be able to recruit more Digimon to your party. And another interesting takeaway is the fact that you're going to be getting moves based off items equipped. It's not going to be like the Digimon learns a move based off of just like them getting stronger, like Pokemon does. You level up, you get new skills. That's not how it works. You actually equip the abilities from items. So that's going to be interesting to see how that works. They do specifically also showcase there will be elemental weaknesses and resistances as well. So that is something that you're probably going to also want to look into if you want to abuse, whenever you get into a combat sequence that is a little bit tough, you're certainly going to want to abuse those elemental weaknesses. They did also mention that there's a training, but they didn't necessarily get into details as to what that is. I think at the end of the day, they're showing a lot of mechanics here. The probably game is going to be pretty good. But someone in the comments mentioned this in the last video that I made when it came to Digimon Survive, and they made it very clear that the marketing for this game has been atrocious. The trailers are very like quick, snazzy, and then they just end. They really don't give you any full information. The presentation that they had, like I mentioned before, was extremely bare bones. They didn't really delve deep into any of the mechanics. They just very casually mentioned a couple of things, like people are supposed to know what the hell is going on, and then they just assume that you're supposed to know going in. And when it comes to the actual marketing and like letting people know, hey, this game is coming out this month and it's probably going to be pretty good, and if you're a Digimon fan, you may want to check it out, there's none of that. Bandai Namco is doing a terrible job marketing this game, specifically in the West. I'm not necessarily sure about Japan or Europe, but here in the West, when it comes to North America, if it wasn't for channels like mine actually promoting this game, because I definitely like Digimon, I certainly want this game to do well, I don't necessarily see a lot of big buzz when it comes to just like, you know, people being excited for the release date, because people don't even know the game is about to drop. I think that's the biggest criticism that I have going forward, specifically when it comes to the way Bandai Namco has been handling the advertising for this game. And hopefully, you know, as we ramp up to the release, that changes going forward. But we'll just have to wait and see. Do remember that the game is dropping on PlayStation, Xbox, PC, I think as well, and of course the Nintendo Switch. So when it comes to the Nintendo Switch version, if I get an early review, I'm certainly going to be able to review it. But if I don't, then I'm sure other channels will be covering that for sure. If you are brand new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up. And as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.